Hi, welcome to another week of Stamp Camp at 2peasindabucket.com. This week we're going to focus on stamping resist. Now there's many types of stamping resist and I'm going to show you just a few of them here. And here are the cards we're going to make. First I'm going to talk about the basic form of resist, which uses glossy paper and a resist ink. So here's a sample that I created with basic resist. Now you're going to need to use white glossy paper for this, and a Versamark ink or a resist ink. Ranger makes the resist ink, and Versamark ink is something that many stampers already have. So I'm going to show you how to use the Versamark, since many of you probably have that in your stash. Now I'm using one of these little white merchandise tags that you can get at any store because oftentimes they are glossy on one side. You can also buy glossy white paper, or you can use sometimes extra printer paper. So I'm going to stamp the image with Versamark ink onto the glossy side of this tag. So just basically stamping on glossy white paper. Now with Versamark ink it's going to take a long time to dry on the glossy. So I'm hitting it with a heat gun. Now if you use that other resist ink, you wouldn't have to wait for it to dry. It would be ready to go right away. So here I'm going to make another tag, just stamp it with Versamark. So I'll hit it with a heat gun and set it aside to dry. Again, if you use the Ranger resist ink, you wouldn't have to worry about heat setting it. So you can kind of see the image there in the light. You can barely see it. Now you can use any dye ink or chalk ink and just rub it right over the stamped image so you can see it popping out there. So the darker the ink, the more intense your resist image will pop out. It looks kind of like a ghost image, and so I'm applying lots of ink here. Now if you want to use any kind of dye ink you can, chalk inks you can. I wouldn't use StazOn ink for this though, but I like to use the chalk inks because they just give a real soft muted look. So I kept the strings on so I could have a place to hold them while I was inking, but you know, you can just use an ink tool instead if you'd like. So I cut those little squares out of those tags, and here is the final result. So just to recap, basic resist is used when you have glossy white paper plus Versamark or a resist ink, and then you apply a dye or chalk ink over it. Now this is embossed resist. This is another kind of resist that I love to do. There are many different ways to do it. Here's one sample where I did embossed resist on a patterned paper. It's very easy to do and it gives you a really unique look. First I have this text paper, and I'm going to stamp this stamped image over the pattern paper with Versamark ink. Again, Versamark's just a clear ink. I won't be able to see it after I've stamped it, but it'll be there. Now we're going to have to heat emboss this. So here is a clear embossing powder. I keep mine in these little Tupperwares just to keep it easy access. And so I'm putting on some clear embossing powder. I like to flip it over and flick it from behind to get the extra powder off. So you can barely see it there, but as I heat set it, you can see that it just ends up giving you a shiny area where you stamped. So you can see it in the light. Now I'm going to use this inking tool from Ranger. It's got a foam applicator and some distress ink. Ink it up real good, and I'm just going to smear this ink all over the surface. And you can see that where the image is embossed, it is resisting the ink. So I'm just going to put lots and lots of ink here. Again, the more ink you put on, the more intense the image will be. I'm also using this ink tool to ink the edges of this stamped piece. It kind of makes it stand out more. Now what I like to do is take a baby wipe that's not really wet, just kind of damp, and just gently rub over the stamped image so that you can see it takes up a little bit of the extra ink on the embossed area. So now I'm removing one foam pad and putting on another so that I can use some brown ink. Now the brown ink is just going to add a little aged look to the stamped image. Again, I'm just wiping it off just to give it a nice crisp look. And here you can see the final results. Very easy to do. Now I thought I'd show you another example using embossed resist. I did this just on a white note card. That background's a white note card where I stamped an image and embossed it before applying ink. So I'm using Versamark ink again, and I'm going to stamp this right onto the white note card. The nice thing about Embossed Resist is you don't need glossy paper to do it. You can stamp it on any kind of paper because you're going to heat emboss it. Now I'm using white embossing powder here just so it gives more of an impact with the Embossed Resist, but you could use clear again. So here I'm heat setting the white powder. Again, I have my Ranger inking tool and some distress ink, and I'm just applying lots of blue ink into the corner of this. I like to start in the corner because it kind of gives you just a spot to start, and you can kind of work your way around the card. So now I have another inking tool, and I'm going to use some green and blend that together. It's really easy to do. You can also do resist with all kinds of inks. You can use alcohol inks for different kind of resist. There's all kinds of things you can do. This is just the tip of the iceberg. So here I've covered it with a mix of the blue and green inks to create a unique kind of background. So this is just another form of Embossed Resist. There's the final results. And to recap, Embossed Resist is where you have any kind of paper and you heat emboss an image on it, and then you can rub dye, chalk, or pigment ink, pretty much everything but stays on, over the top of the embossed surface to give a resist look. So here are the 3 cards again. If you have any questions, please visit twopeasinabucket.com. We'll also have handouts there and other type of techniques. Thanks for watching.